Everybody doing? Pastor Sam and the Gospel Gunslingers. One of my friend's favorite broadcasters said, "We're live from the Shotgun Shack." So I guess that guy has him a shack out in the wilderness someplace that he broadcasts from. And mine's not much better. But nevertheless, we're coming at you from the Badlands beyond the Rio Grande. I'm your favorite refugee, Pastor Sam and the Gospel Gunslingers. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about my new show on Shortwave Radio. We're having a lot of fun out there on shortwave, and if you don't know, that is a signal that propagates. It can go thousands of miles. It can go across the ocean. It's very powerful. It's an old technology, but it's what the militaries of the world use to keep in touch. In fact, a lot of secret signals go out to military operatives that are stationed in foreign lands and places around the world by shortwave radio. So they have to get out their set and tune into certain shows and listen for certain cues and key words. If you're not into shortwave, it's pretty easy to get a hold of a little set like this. This one was given to me, and somebody actually shipped it to Mexico. It's got a little antenna on it, so you can get into shortwave for probably $30. You can start at getting a receiver set. For $100, you can get a pretty nice one. You don't want to get one that's too complicated. I've also got another antenna that goes out through the wall and outside and runs horizontally, which is what you really want for shortwave. So when they talk about shortwave, it was high frequency radio back in the day. Now a lot of things are higher frequency. I believe that FM is 89 megahertz to 105 or 6 megahertz, and we're generally dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 2 to 20 megahertz. So that was high frequency. If you talk about UHF and VHF back in the day, back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, then there was high frequency, and that was HF, and then VHF, very high frequency, and UHF, ultra high frequency. So if you get an old TV set, it'll actually have on the knob VHF and UHF. And so that's why they call it shortwave, because it was high frequency at the time, which leads to a shorter wave. Velocity equals frequency wavelength. So there's your equation. You just take the velocity, which is the speed of light, and then that equals the frequency times the wavelength. So I don't want to get too technical. I don't understand many of the technicalities, but part of what's cool about shortwave radio is it goes around the world. And so I'm broadcasting out of Monticello, Maine, and out of Okeechobee, Florida. And the Okeechobee, Florida transmitter goes all the way to Antarctica. It crosses the Caribbean Sea. It's at 160 degrees. So from Florida, if you look at a map of Florida, you can see the lake right in the middle. That's where the transmitter is. That's where WRMI, the famous Radio Miami International, is based. And the transmitter that I'm using is the 9955. That's 9.955 megahertz. And it is going southeast across all of South America. I don't get it in all of Mexico. I kind of have to be on a mountaintop or on the eastern coast on a clear day, and I can get 9955. But the eastern part of Mexico, the Yucatan, all of Central America, and all of South America definitely gets that signal. And so it goes, if you don't know, it's thousands of miles to the south to get down to the south of Argentina and Chile. It is, I think 7,400 nautical miles the ships traverse to go to Montevideo, Uruguay, for the delivery of their new warships from Maryland. It's a long way, 7,400 nautical miles. They had to make 14 port stops even to get there. So I'm broadcasting into all those nations. There are a lot of Americans that have left the United States of America and live in those places. And so I can reach out to them. I can broadcast right into communist countries. The signal gets there. To stop it, they have to actively jam it, which takes a lot of power and effort. It's a pretty monumental undertaking, and a lot of nations can't or won't do it. And so I can speak directly to the people of Cuba and other places. It's pretty wild. Anyhow, we're 12 weeks in. It's also a completely uncensored platform. You can curse on there, which means I can play clips and songs. I don't have to bleep anything. And I can be a little bit free with what I myself would like to say. Things that we can't do here on YouTube. There are a lot of rules in the Brave New World, so we avoid all of that by going out to you by shortwave. By the way, the show archives are up. I only do a 30-minute show because these transmitters are 100,000 watts. They're huge transmitters. If you look at the opening slide of this video, that's one of the transmitters in Monticello, Maine. So if you look at the building that runs that transmitter that sends the signal and the power to it, the transmitter is way bigger than the building. It's a huge web, and it's sending that signal out across the world, across the oceans. There's an archive up. So you can go to gospelgunslingers.com, scroll down, and at the bottom it talks about the radio show Living by the Sword. And then it says there's a link to the show archives here. So you click that link and it'll take you right to my Subscribe Star blog page that has each individual show on an MP3. So you can listen to today's show, you can listen to last week's show. We're naming a lot of names, and we're getting into the politics internally and externally of numerous countries. And we kind of cut through the BS and tell you why certain countries are going certain directions, and most of all, what you can do about it, because the world is going into a state of war. And so we're falling back to some of these old technologies. If you don't have one of these, please go get one. Get yourself a shortwave radio set, and then pick a station. If you live in the USA, you can get WBCQ 7.490. So try to tune that in. You can probably get it with this standard antenna, but if you have a cable antenna that you can run horizontally above the ground, like a clothesline, and if it's 100 feet long, that's even better. Mine's not near that long. Mine's only a tenth of that long, and it still helps and picks up better than this standard receiver. But a little radio like this can sure save your life. And if you didn't know that FEMA just put out an advisement, get a radio that's battery powered. Not one that cranks, not one that plugs in the wall. This one actually has a charging ability, and if you run NiCad batteries, you just put them in there, and then you plug in the charger to one of these ports. I think this one here, yeah, DC. You plug the charger into that port, and it'll charge your batteries, and so you don't have to keep buying batteries. You just get one or two sets of rechargeable batteries, and you can keep charging them up from AC power. This radio also will get FM and AM in addition to shortwave bands. So it doesn't transmit. If you get into a couple $100 or more, you can get a shortwave radio that will transmit. You have to have a ham license for that. It's not that big of a deal to get, but it's another option. And then you can transmit on a band that will propagate with the ionosphere. The signal goes up and bounces back down, and then that gives you the ability to go long distances. So that's part of the reason that ham radio works when nothing else will work in the most terrible disaster areas and so forth, because it's a propagating signal. It'll continue to bounce off the ionosphere and bounce off the earth, and that's how you get it to go long distances. That's also why if you get into, I forget what they call the exact band, but between like 5 megahertz and 20 megahertz, when the sun goes down, the evening conditions really cause that wave to propagate. And so it can go extra far. It can go across the world. And again, our signal is going all the way into Antarctica. So we're preaching the gospel on there. My verse of the day for Gospel Gunslingers is on there. I hit the button and turn this on. And of course, that's the new home for Pastor Sam's Latin America War Report and Migrant Invasion News. So you'll get the latest download on all of those things, completely uncensored, if you come into Living by the Sword. Okay, the name. We talk about are controversial Puritan doctrines of self-defense and self-government. A lot of so-called Christian people don't believe that we should be ruling ourselves. Space Ghost. Space Ghost the cat wants to play. I'm just going to put this up and I'm going to see if we are getting signal here. So a lot of people don't think that we should defend ourselves and make our own laws. It's really a very prevalent theological position today that no, you have to be told what to do and other people are going to make the laws and then you just do it or you get a spanking. Because I have no followers on here, so let's just search Gospel Gunslingers. We have to fight against censorship. If you don't know, let's go to YouTube and let's see who's live. See, it's not even on there. Why am I not coming up? That's not fair. That's not right. Well, maybe some people will get the notice after this goes up, because here it's an old stream that's on here. Anyway, I hope that a few of you get to hear this. This is the censorship we're dealing with. And even though there's a little bit of counter-striking against that, Twitter's opening up a little. It still hasn't opened up for me. I don't appear in all my followers' feeds, and the people I follow don't appear in my feeds, and there's still interference with private messages. And so a lot of those algorithms and not only the algorithms, but the driving code has to be replaced at Twitter and not scuttled. There are some employees that would like to do as much damage to the inner workings as they could. They would like to throw a wrench in the cogs before they leave so that it can't be used for actual free speech, because they were having such fun being the world's policeman. Well, this is what we stand against as gospel gunslingers. We make our own laws, and we have the right and the ability to enforce them. And if we don't like the direction that the world of laws is going, then we have a right, a duty to throw off the yoke of that. So here on YouTube are the original 99 lessons, verse of the day for gospel gunslingers. That's a playlist that is here. Nobody ever goes there, but it is there. Oh, I'm offline. There we go, playlists. Okay, so we go to playlists, and it's not in the first few, of course, so we have to go find it. There we go. Pastor Sam, verse of the day for gospel gunslingers. And there's the delivering angel on the first one. Good morning, Pastor. So there we go. Verse of the day for gospel gunslingers. Lesson 1. And these are the first, I guess there's only 96 on there. There are 99 in actuality, and you can catch them on BitChute if there's a few banned ones. So who knows where those other 3 went or which ones they even were. Just another platform that I've trusted that has led us wrong. So we teach on our revolutionary doctrines. There's a lot on today's show about Martin Lutero, and the things that he did and how self-government started to get going in the 1500s, and then it was just too much to stomach for someone who grew up in and was steeped in Catholicism, who still seemed to love the ritual and the long robes and the wide phylacteries and the greetings in the marketplaces saying, "Rabbi, Rabbi." Somebody who still followed the calendar. And 100 years after that, the Pilgrims came, and then the Pilgrim forefathers over the course of another century wrote that the Reformation needed to go further, that the world had more to learn about self-government and about self-defense. But going back to that point, really from 1620 to 1776 to 1800, and then that's when we get into the Americas and the independence movements in Latin America. Started in 1806, Mexico in 1810, and those were bloody fights that went on for a century. They were not completed really until the Spanish-American War, the sinking of the Maine, the U.S. seizing of the Philippines and Cuba, many Spanish holdings in the Caribbean. So we talk about all those revolutionary doctrines. We have a lot of fun, and it's all uncensored. So a lot of news that you won't get anywhere else, commentary on what happened and why it matters and who are the people involved and where have they been before. So we touch on all that. It's very fast moving, much more fast moving than my YouTubes. We kind of chew the fat here and hang out. We hang out in the foyer and sip our coffee. And so it's fun in its own way, but living by the sword is just bang, bang, bang. It's 30 minutes nonstop, and you will be pumped up if you listen to it. So try to catch us on Shortwave tonight, 6 Eastern on 9955 or WRMI.net, 7 Eastern on 7.490 or WBCQ.com. So you go to WBCQ.com and then you scroll down to the webcast, and then you can hit the listen button on WRMI.net, not .com, not .org, WRMI.net. You scroll down and there's a listen button, escucha. You hit that listen button and it'll go right to their live feed. So if you're at the appointed time, then you'll hear the gunshots, and off we go with Living by the Sword with Pastor Sam and the Gospel Gunslingers. So please come along. By the way, I'm way out on a limb. We've really extended ourselves to do this and to take a voice of freedom to the world, to get it up and running before the toppling dominoes get any worse. And there's more and more of the world is covered by war. So we have got the show running, but I'm way out on a limb. Listen, guys, please consider a serious end-of-year donation. We have had a major impact in Latin America. Mexico's in what is called the fourth transformation. We have prayed this through, and we've seen criminal governments, criminal governors, criminal police forces, all completely unhorsed, and some of them have fled the country. And it's because we're here and we're praying and we're telling the truth. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up so that maybe some people will get the alert and get on, because I'm still not seeing it on my page. Let's look again. Live. See, nothing there. So please consider an end of year gift and do it now. Our back is against the wall. I'm way out on a limb, and it is cracking, and I don't mind saying so. And this is a time of testing that the Lord is really seeing who will respond to all of the warnings that have happened in the world, and who will pretend that all is good in the world and everything's okay. Just don't be that guy. Everything is changing right now, and we have to be very pliable in the Lord's hand. And listen, how much have you lost? How much, just to inflation, have you lost this year alone, just to price increases? Some people would say a third or half of all that they had squirreled away. Don't be like the man who filled up his barns and said, I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and I'll keep all my stuff in it. Don't be like that guy. Today's the day of salvation. Please consider supporting your local gunfighter. Please consider helping to rebuild conservative journalism from safety in the free world. Please consider that things are changing very, very rapidly, and that we need your help to stay on the map. There's donate buttons at gospelgunslingers.com. There are a lot of ways that you can get us $1 quickly. Reach out to me. You can send me a direct message here in the comments, or on YouTube, or on gospelgunslingers.com. There's a comment box. You can fill that out, and I will call you back, and we'll make arrangements. But please consider helping us financially. And I don't mean next month. I mean, please consider doing it now, so that we can get out of this pickle and make sure our airtime's paid, and smoothly move into a new supersonic flight. We really need your help. So God bless you. Thank you for doing that. I'm Pastor Sam.